Today we're taking a look at Pantasy's latest release, the Retro Phone. It's part of their retro collection. It's charming, it's got character, but it's a little bit more delicate than I would have hoped. So let's get into it. Firstly, a big thank you to Pantasy for sending me the set for review, and as always, all thoughts and opinions are my own. So this is set number 85108, and as I mentioned, is part of Pantasy's retro collection. It's kind of giving me that grandma's hallway telephone energy, that sort of thing. It's a pretty neat build. It comes in with a build time of around 90 minutes, give or take. There are no stickers in this set, which for me personally is a great plus because I hate applying stickers. This build is actually an advanced build, but again, I wouldn't worry too much because Pantasy have numbered the bags very well. It's very easy to follow, and if you've built a Pantasy set before, it's going to feel very familiar. Now, in terms of my building experience, I felt it was really easy to follow the instructions. You get this nice little instruction book. It's very clear, easy to follow, similar to other brick building companies out there, so you're not going to get lost along the way, which is very nice. One thing I will point out, and I know it's a little bit early on in the video to do this, but I think it's important, this front dial here, the gold one, I think is made from a slightly different plastic, or at least the way it's made is different to the rest of the bricks. It just felt slightly different. It looks like it may have been laser cut or something like that. It takes nothing away from the build itself, but I just wanted to mention it real quick. Now, once I had completed the build, I did think it looked pretty nice, but, and I will touch on this later on in the video, it is a little bit fragile, so just bear that in mind. So now I want to take a closer look at the build, so let's get into it. First up, we've got this gold rotary dial at the front. You're meant to spin it like the old school telephones, drag it to the number, release and repeat. Pantasy done a decent job repeating it. It's functional-ish, but it's a bit stiff and doesn't always land perfectly. There's an elastic band inside the build that drives the mechanism, and while it works, it's not the smoothest experience. Next to that, there's a handle on the side you can twist, spin it around, and underneath the build, you'll spot some tiny bells being hit by a clever little ball-bearing mechanism. It's a really charming detail. Even if you're only doing it once or twice, it's a bit of fun. And of course, the actual phone receiver lifts off the hook. It's attached via a flexible cable and has some decent reach. When you place it back down, the hook responds with a little spring thanks to an elastic band inside. It's very cool, it's very tactile. Now, in terms of the actual structure, I know I've mentioned this already, that it is a little bit fragile. Honestly, I think it's down to the base, and this is where things get very wobbly. Pantasy has used tubes along two sides for styling, which I think looks slick, but it does compromise the sturdiness. Mine was especially delicate when moving it around. I'm not sure if it's going to be for yours as well, but the bell mechanism underneath actually popped off during transport, which then caused me to drop some of the build, and I had to, rebuild it, which wasn't ideal. Now, going up the build, it gets a little sturdier. The middle segment, where you've got that iconic rotary dial and side handle, is much more solid. There's some lovely detailing too. This is where you have the floral pad printed tiles, which gives it that vintage feel, and Pantasy have also sprinkled some little gold touches to tie it all together. Especially like some of these gold buttons, or they might be screws, which just gives it an extra little bit of detail to this overall build. Then, when we reach the top, this is the receiver holder. This was one of my favorite design bits. There's a little clever bounce implemented into it when the phone is placed down. Again, powered by that elastic band that I mentioned. It feels quite authentic in my opinion. I don't know a lot about old phones, but this looks legit. Now, if we spin the build around, you're going to see a cute battery detail at the back. It's not functional, but it's a nice nod to the tech. So in terms of color schemes, personally, I love it. I think the mix of browns, blacks and golds works very well here. The gold's used sparingly and strategically, so overall the whole thing just looks really elegant on display. Alright, so here's when things get a little bit more tricky, because I'm going to talk about the cons that I experienced with this set. First of all is the structure of this build. It is a little bit too fragile for my liking. As I mentioned, when I'm picking it up to move to locations, I have found that the bells have fallen off, the base itself has fallen off, I've lost parts of it. You get the idea. It is pretty fragile, it may fall apart quite easily. Even in the basic things like moving it, it was a bit disappointing, if I'm totally honest. Next up is that rotary dial. Now, it is meant to be one of the main play features, I believe, of this set, especially because it is sat right in the middle. It's quite eye-catching. It doesn't actually work properly 100% of the time from my experience. Maybe it's to do with the elastic band setup, maybe it's to do with the placement of the holes for the actual numbers, I really don't know, but it's a shame. It does work, but as I say, it's not 100% success rate, so maybe they could have done some refining there before releasing the finished product. Next up is the phone cable. I know you're thinking that's probably a bit of a weird one to point, but what I noticed is that the phone cable on this build in particular, there's a tiny little grey part just on one of the cables. You may notice it when you build it. It doesn't feature on the box art, which for me, I think is a little bit misleading from Pantasy. And I'm beginning to question whether they actually airbrush and edit some of their other photos which appear for their other sets. It's not great, if I'm totally honest with you. Now lastly, and this kind of relates back to the structure, but I personally would be a little bit hesitant to actually play with this build. I think it's more of a display piece, especially because of how fragile it is. Yes, it has some cool little quirks which bring it to life, but just be careful when you're using them. So now we're gonna move on to the price, and this set retails in at $69.99 USD, which personally I think is a little bit too steep for this product. I'm basing that on the fact that I think it needs a little bit of refining. There are a few issues with this set, which is a shame because it does look really nice. Do not worry though with the price. Pantasy do have regular sales on their website, so keep an eye out on that. If you're interested to pick this set up and have a guaranteed discount, Pantasy have kindly provided my own discount code, which you can find in the description of this video. So if you do want to pick it up, be sure to use that code. So my final thoughts, and I think we kind of know where this is going, is a bit of a 50-50 because yes, the set does look great. I think it would be a good addition to Pantasy's retro collection. It does have some clever play features which need refining, in my opinion. It is also a little bit fragile, but it would look nice as a display piece. Thanks again for watching. Thanks again to Pantasy for sending me the set for review. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to hit that like button. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you're new around here, maybe consider subscribing. As always, I'll see you in the next one.